I never get to be with my family on Memorial Day, not because I don't care, but because of a secret that could destroy everything if they found out. Today, I'm finally sharing the truth I've been hiding for years, a truth that still haunts me every time the holiday rolls around. Subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 29 years old and work as a nurse, someone who, on the outside, seems caring and strong, always ready to help others no matter what. But inside, I carry a weight that no one sees, a secret so heavy it's slowly been breaking me apart for years. I grew up in a proud, tightly knit military family where honor and loyalty weren't just words, they were everything. From a young age, I was taught to live by those values, to be the perfect daughter who never disappoints. But beneath that surface, I felt torn in ways I couldn't explain. I longed to belong, to be accepted just as I was, but I knew deep down that there was a part of me I had to hide forever. Since my late teens, I've been carrying a secret that poisons everything I love. It's a secret that isolates me from my family and keeps me emotionally distant from those I care about most. It's like I'm trapped behind invisible walls, built from shame and fear. Walls I can't tear down because I'm terrified of what might happen if the truth ever came out. I protect my family fiercely, but at the same time, I'm haunted by a deep fear of rejection. What if they find out? What if the person they've always loved and trusted isn't who they thought I was? Every family gathering, every Memorial Day, I feel this crushing loneliness. While everyone else laughs and celebrates, I sit quietly, swallowed by guilt and silence. The secret is like a shadow that follows me everywhere, reminding me that I don't fully belong. I've watched my relationships suffer, my own self-worth crumble, all because I couldn't bring myself to confess what I'd done. The shame clings to me like a second skin, making me afraid to be truly seen. When I was 18, everything in my life changed forever though. At the time, I didn't realize just how much. It all started with a reckless choice, a relationship. That seemed thrilling, like an escape from the strict world I grew up in. My best friend Sarah was the light in my life, someone my family adored and trusted with their hearts. We were inseparable, but that Memorial Day, everything went horribly wrong. We were driving late at night, careless, caught up in the moment, and then the world spun out of control. The crash happened in an instant. The sound of metal twisting, glass shattering, it's a memory burned into my mind so deeply that I can still hear it when I close my eyes. Sarah died that night. She was gone, and I was left alive, drowning in guilt and silence. My family was devastated, heartbroken beyond words, but there was something they didn't know, something I was desperate to hide. The accident wasn't just a tragic misfortune. It was my fault in ways I've never dared to admit aloud. We covered it up. We told everyone it was a mechanical failure, a random tragedy. We needed to protect the family name, the reputation my parents had fought so hard to build with discipline and honor. But inside me, the truth screamed louder every day. I was terrified. The shame and guilt gnawed at my soul like a relentless beast. But the silence felt safer. If I said anything, if I confessed everything, could collapse my family, the love I clung to, the trust I barely held on to, so I stopped going to Memorial Day gatherings. Every year, as that day approached, my heart would pound with dread. I felt like a ghost in my own life watching everyone else remember Sarah. Remember our family's sacrifices while I hid away, unable to face the past or the people I loved most. I was trapped, caught between wanting to run and wanting to scream, but always choosing silence. I thought that by avoiding Memorial Day, I could keep the secret locked away, protect my family from pain and protect myself from shame. But the weight of that secret only grew heavier with time. It infected my relationships, my confidence, my ability to trust and to love freely. I became emotionally distant, afraid to get close to anyone because I feared they would see the truth, hidden behind my eyes, and yet every Memorial Day the pain returned. The memories, the lies, the guilt, they clawed at me relentlessly. I wondered if I was the only one carrying this burden, if anyone else knew what it was like to feel so alone, in a family full of love, but the fear of losing everything I held dear kept my lips sealed. This is the story of why I never celebrate Memorial Day with my family and why. No matter how much it hurts, I don't think I'll ever find the courage to tell them the truth. But beneath all the pain, there's a small part of me that still hopes for freedom from this prison of silence, for a chance at healing. I know it won't be easy. I know the truth could shatter everything. But I wonder, could I ever find the courage to face it? To risk losing the love I've been holding on to, in order to finally be honest with myself and with them? If you've ever felt trapped by your own secrets, torn between love and fear, this story will resonate with you, because sometimes the hardest battles are the ones we fight inside ourselves, and sometimes the heaviest chains are made of silence. This is my story, and maybe, just maybe, sharing it is the first step toward breaking free. Every year, Memorial Day has always been sacred in my family. It's not just a holiday, it's a tradition, a ritual woven into our very identity. Growing up, it was the day we honored generations of service. My grandfather's medals from Vietnam, my uncle's folded flag from Iraq, my father's somber silence as he saluted at the local cemetery. We'd gather around stories of bravery and sacrifice, our family tighter than ever, holding each other with pride and gratitude as a little girl. I used to love those days, wearing my red, white, and blue dress, standing next to my dad as he explained the meaning of each name carved into the memorial stones. I felt part of something bigger, something strong and unbreakable. And yet, now, all I feel is the crushing weight of absence, because for over a decade, I haven't been able to face them, not on that day, not ever again. I ache to be there to sit with them at the cemetery, to lay flowers with my mom, to listen to my younger brother's speech at the local veterans event. I long to be part of it again, to belong, but I can't. The pain. It's unbearable, because Memorial Day doesn't just remind me of their sacrifices, it reminds me of my sin. The memory of that night is as vivid as if it happened yesterday. I was 18, invincible, and dangerously impulsive. I was dating a guy my parents hated, a guy who made me feel alive, reckless, seen. That night, Sarah, my best friend since kindergarten, begged me to come out for a drive. She wanted to celebrate the start of summer, break free for just a little while. I should have said no. God, I should have said no. But instead, we picked up some drinks, blasted music, and sped down those old country roads we knew like the backs of our hands. Only that night, I didn't know them well enough. One sharp curve, one split second, and then nothing but chaos. The sound of her screams still haunts me. The windshield shattered, metal crumpled, and then silence. Sarah didn't make it. I woke up in the hospital hours later with a concussion and a gash above my eye. The police said it looked like a mechanical failure. My boyfriend, terrified of being charged with providing us alcohol, pushed me to say nothing. My parents, they were just relieved I was alive, and me, I was paralyzed by fear. Fear of what the truth would do to my family's reputation in our small military town. Fear of what it would do to Sarah's parents, who loved me like a daughter. And most of all, fear of what it would do to me, so I kept quiet. We all did. And from that day on, I watched my life fracture. Nights became sleepless marathons of replaying every moment. Every choice, every second I wished I could take back. My parents, who once confided in me about everything, now seemed distant, confused by the wall I was building around myself. But how could I explain? Sarah's family mourned her publicly, while I mourned her alone, in silence, in shame? I couldn't even bring myself to visit her grave, and then Memorial Day came. That first one after the accident. I remember sitting on my bed, staring at the invitation to the family gathering, paralyzed. The thought of standing at the cemetery, listening to speeches about honor, about sacrifice, knowing what I had done, it was too much, so I didn't go. The excuses started that year. Oh, I've got to work. I told them I'm on shift. And then the next year, I'm not feeling well. Then I'm out of town. Each year, the lies became easier to tell, but harder to live with. I'd watch the photos my mom posted online, smiling family shots. My brother in his dress blues, my dad looking proud, and I'd feel like a ghost watching my own life from the outside. But what they didn't see was me, curled up in my apartment, clutching Sarah's bracelet, the one I never had the courage to return to her parents, crying silently. Hating myself more with each passing year, I kept thinking the pain would fade with time, that the memory would soften, but it didn't. If anything, it grew sharper, cutting deeper with every Memorial Day I missed. And then, this year, something shifted. My younger brother called me 2 weeks before Memorial Day. It's been too long. Please come. This year. I could hear the hesitation in his voice, the ache of all those years I'd kept my distance. Asterisk. Then my mom texted me, no pressure. Just a simple message. We'd love to have you home for Memorial Day. Your dad misses you. The words hit me like a punch to the chest. I stared at the message for hours, my phone heavy in my hand. My parents, they never pushed. They never asked why I kept staying away. But I could feel it in their voices, their silences. They wanted me back, and for the first time, I wanted to say yes. But then, the fear arose again, choking me like it always does. What if going back broke me? What if standing there with all of them looking at Sarah's name on the memorial stone, I couldn't keep the secret anymore? What if I shattered everything? So now, as Memorial Day approaches once again, I find myself standing at the edge of a choice I've been avoiding for over a decade. To keep running, or to finally face the truth. But how do you confess something that could destroy the very people you love most? How do you forgive yourself when you're not even sure you deserve it? This This is where I am now, caught between the longing to go home and the terror of what going home might cost me. And that's why I've never celebrated Memorial Day with my family, and why I don't know if I'll ever have the courage to tell them. It was the night before Memorial Day. The city outside my apartment window pulsed with life cars passing by. Couples laughing on the sidewalk, but in my tiny living room, it felt like time had stopped. I sat there, curled up on the edge of my worn-out couch, clutching my phone like it was a lifeline or a weapon. For hours, I stared at the screen, my brother's message still there, waiting. My mom's quiet plea echoing in my mind, "We'd love to have you home." I almost called them. God, I almost did. My thumb hovered over the dial button more times than I can count. I could already hear my mom's voice, that soft exhale she always makes when she's relieved. I could picture my dad sitting in his recliner trying to act stoic, but with that unmistakable glint of happiness in his eyes when I call. I could even see my brother cracking some dumb joke to break the tension, pretending like the last decade of distance hadn't happened. It would be so easy to just call, to say I'm coming home, but every time I got close, the same icy grip of fear wrapped around my throat and pulled me back into the dark. Because I know that if I go home, if I stand there in front of the family I love more than anything, in front of those memorial stones, I won't be able to keep it in. Anymore, the truth will come pouring out. And what then? What will they think of me? Of their daughter? Their sister? The one who took a life and then buried the evidence beneath years of silence? The shame is suffocating. I could almost hear Sarah's laugh in my ears. See her sitting in the passenger seat that night, carefree and full of life? She trusted me, she believed in me, and I failed her. That thought alone crushed me. So instead of calling, I grabbed an old notebook from my desk drawer. It was the one I hadn't touched in years, the same one Sarah had given me on my 17th birthday, with the words "for all your adventures" written in her perfect handwriting on the first page. And with my hands shaking uncontrollably, I opened it and started to write. At first, I didn't even know what I was writing. Just words. Raw, jagged, broken pieces of my heart bleeding out onto the paper. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. The pen scraped against the paper, my tears falling so fast they blurred the ink. I've kept something from you. Something that's been eating me alive for all these years. I wrote about that night the way Sarah had begged me to come out. How I'd said yes, even though I knew I shouldn't. How the laughter turned to screams in seconds. I wrote about the pact of silence, the fear, the endless nights of guilt. I wanted to tell you so many times, but I was terrified. I didn't want you to see me differently. I didn't want to destroy the family I love so much. And then, I miss you. Every Memorial Day, I ache to be there with you. To honor those we've lost, but I couldn't face standing there knowing what I'd done. The words poured out faster than I could process them. It was as if my soul had been waiting for this moment for years, and now that the dam had broken, nothing could stop it. I love you all so much. I hope one day you can forgive me. When I finished, I sat there staring at the letter, my chest heaving like I'd just run a marathon for a moment. A brief, fleeting moment. I thought about sealing it in an envelope, addressing it to my parents, and sending it. But then, the same fear that had kept me silent all these years wrapped itself around me again. What if they couldn't forgive me? What if this letter didn't bring healing but devastation? I folded it carefully and slipped it into the back of the notebook. Maybe one day I'll send it. Maybe one day I'll have the courage to look them in the eye and tell them the truth. But not tonight. Tonight. All I could do was sit there in the dim light of my apartment, the notebook pressed to my chest, my heart breaking all over again. Outside, fireworks started to pop in the distant early celebrations for Memorial Day. The sounds of laughter, of family gatherings drifted up from the street below, piercing through the heavy silence of my apartment like knives. And I realized, this is my Memorial Day. Not barbecues or parades or standing by the graves of heroes, but sitting alone, with a letter I'll never send, carrying a secret I can't bear to speak, and a love for my family so fierce it hurts. This is the moment that defines me, not because I'm strong enough to tell the truth, but because I'm still too broken to do it. And maybe that's the hardest part of all, not the accident. Not the loss, but the fact that after all these years, I'm still the girl who can't quite find the courage to set herself free. That's why I've never celebrated Memorial Day with my family, and why, even now, I don't know if I ever will. The next morning, Memorial Day arrived like it always does, quietly, with the first rays of sunlight slipping through the cracks in my blinds. I sat at the edge of my bed, holding my phone in one hand and that notebook in the other, the letter still tucked safely inside. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was running. No, I didn't go to the family gathering. I couldn't. Not yet. But this time, it wasn't out of fear or shame. It was because I finally understood that healing doesn't happen all at once. It's not some dramatic confession in front of everyone that suddenly fixes everything. It's slower, quieter, messier. And writing that letter, even if I never send it, was my first real step toward forgiveness, not just from them, but from myself. Later that day, I looked up therapists in my area. My hand shook a little as I made the appointment, but I did it anyway. For the first time, I wasn't hiding behind excuses or burying the pain deeper. I promised myself that I would keep going to therapy, that I'd keep doing the hard work of facing the truth. Not to erase what happened, no, that's impossible, but to stop letting it define me one day. I will tell them, one day, I will stand in front of my parents, my brother, and let them see all of me, the broken parts, the guilt, the love that never changed despite the distance. But for now, I'm allowing myself to breathe. For the first time in years, I walked outside on Memorial Day. I didn't go far, just down the street to a little park. I sat on a bench, listened to the sounds of families barbecuing, kids laughing, flags waving in the breeze. And I didn't feel like a ghost watching from the sidelines. I felt human again, and I realized that's the first victory, not pretending. The past didn't happen, not forcing myself to be someone I'm not ready to be, but simply choosing to live. And maybe that's what Memorial Day is really about for me now, not just remembering the people we've lost, but learning how to come back to life even when part of you still feels broken. So no. I didn't celebrate with my family this year, but for the first time, I believe, someday I will. Looking back now, I realized that for a long time I believed. That courage meant standing up in front of my family and telling the truth in a dramatic make-or-break moment. But that's not what healing really looks like. Healing is silent. It starts with those small, fragile decisions that no one sees, like writing a letter I might never send, like picking up the phone to make a therapy appointment, like leaving my house on Memorial Day for the first time in years without feeling like the world was collapsing under the weight of my secret for most of my life. I thought I had to carry this alone, that if I told anyone, the shame would crush me, or worse, destroy the family I love more than anything. But now I understand that the real prison wasn't there. Judgment It was my silence. By writing that letter, by admitting the truth, even if only to myself, I opened a door that I thought was permanently locked, and walking through that door, that is the beginning of my freedom. No, I'm not healed yet. I'm not ready to sit at the Memorial Day table and share the story that has haunted me for over a decade. But I have begun the process of forgiving myself for what happened, for the choices I made when I was young, scared, and reckless. This is something I never imagined possible. Now, I'm learning that I can be more than my worst mistake. I can be the sister who answers the phone more often, the daughter who listens instead of walking away, the woman who builds relationships not based on guilt and fear, but on honesty and love. Maybe one day I'll tell them everything. Maybe one day I'll sit down with my family and finally say the words that have lived in my chest like thorns for so long. But even though that day is still a long way off, I know now. I'm moving toward it. For the first time, I feel hope. And that's something I've never allowed myself to feel before. So yeah, this is why I've never celebrated Memorial Day with my family. And maybe I don't have the courage to tell them yet, but now I know I'm finally on the path to becoming someone who celebrates. And that changes everything. If my story resonated with you, even in silence, I hope you know you're not alone. Sometimes the hardest truths we carry are the ones we never say out loud, but healing always begins with acknowledging them, even in silence. Share your experience in the comments if you feel ready, subscribe to the channel, and keep watching this video that's playing on your screen.